is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Hello, welcome to CGTN. I'm Pan Deng in Beijing. This is a special coverage as Chinese President Xi Jinping expected to arrive in Malaysia for a highly anticipated state visit.
I'm Wang Mengmang. Over the next hour, we'll take you through the highlights of his arrival, the key meetings on the agenda, and what this visit means for Malaysia and the region.
Joining us through this special coverage are Professor Liu Baocheng and Mr. Zhou Mi in our Beijing studio. Thank you very much for joining us, dear guests. We'll be getting back to you very soon.
In the meantime, our reporter Zhao Yunfei is standing by for us live at the airport in Kuala Lumpur. Yunfei, good to see you there. What is going on at the airport in the lead up to President Xi's arrival?
Well, Maman and Pandang, we're here at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport. Well, it's hard to describe the atmosphere over here because it's raining. So the weather, although it's very hot, so it cooled down a little bit. But if you look at the crowd welcoming the Chinese President Xi, it's a really warm atmosphere. Now, today we're expecting to see a crowd of over 160 people in the welcoming crowd. And in addition to that, there are 50 dancers, as well as there's a high school band with about 30 members in the band. So you can see that this is really a warm welcome to the Chinese president. Now, President Xi could arrive here at the international airport anytime from now. And this is a highly anticipated event, as some you have mentioned, because this is the second visit of the Chinese president in 12 years. And I spoke to some people a few days ago, and some scholars and experts told me that this is perhaps overdue. But this is how they say welcome to the Chinese president and to come over quickly because they appreciate and cherish the bond between China and ASEAN. As President Xi himself put it, that China and Malaysia are neighbors across the sea. So certainly we're anticipating a big event here in Kuala Lumpur today. And certainly, of course, this is one of the high-level, reception. Behind me, you can probably see the dancers are coming out and trying to set up the scene. And we're expecting to see the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Anwar Ibrahim, receiving President Xi over here at the airport. Now back to you.
Yunfei, thank you so much.
Now let's cross live to our correspondent Ryan Mouter standing by in Kuala Lumpur. Ryan, bring us up to date on the major items on the agenda for President Xi Jinping's state visit to Malaysia.
Well, from what Malaysia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs tells us, the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, the country's king, will host a state banquet for the president. And this is really reciprocating the king's visit to China last year on a state visit at the invitation of President Xi. Then tomorrow morning, there will be an official welcoming ceremony, which normally would entail the president inspecting a ceremonial guard of honor. And then he will hold one-on-one talks, meeting with the king at the Istana Negara, the National Palace. In the afternoon, President Xi will meet with Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim for bilateral talks, four-eyed talks as they're called, the two of them together, hashing out the big issues of the day, which have become that much bigger in recent times. Now, this trip, the Prime Minister was at pains to state, was arranged a long time ago. However, it seems that much more fortuitous now, given the big events and the turmoil that's being triggered by the U.S. actions. So they will have a lot to talk about, as well as big geopolitical issues, the continuing conflict in the Ukraine and Gaza, as well as, of course, how they can intensify and deepen trade and investment ties between them. And also, in a sense, Prime Minister Anwar is representing ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, at this meeting because Malaysia is the chair of ASEAN this year. And then in the evening, the Prime Minister will host a dinner for the President, at which we believe both the Prime Minister and President Xi will make speeches that the media and others will be able to hear the content of those speeches. Now, it should be noted that although it's been 12 years since President Xi visited Malaysia, the Premier of China was here last year, and Malaysia's Prime Minister has visited China on 3 occasions and met with President Xi just since he became Prime Minister late in 2022. So the diplomatic ties are very strong, and President Xi and Anwar Ibrahim are very well acquainted with one another. So they have a good starting point for their talks. They already know each other quite well at this stage.
Thank you very much, our correspondent Ryan Mauta in Kuala Lumpur. Staying with the coverage, Malaysian newspapers Xinjiang Daily, The Star and Sinar Harian published Chinese President Xi Jinping's signed article ahead of his state visit. The article is entitled, "May the ship of China-Malaysia friendship sail toward an even brighter future." In the article, President Xi Jinping points out that China and Malaysia are friendly neighbors across the sea, forming a community of shared future that stands together through safety and adversity, honor and hardship. He emphasizes that both countries must firmly grasp the rudder of strategic guidance, maintain close strategic communication, deepen political mutual trust, effectively implement Belt and Road Initiative, align development strategies, and exchange governance experiences to advance bilateral ties through high-level strategic cooperation. President Xi Jinping also notes that China is ready to work with Malaysia and other ASEAN members to resist the undercurrent of geopolitics and bloc confrontation, break the current unilateralism and protectionism.
Now, our reporter Zhao Yunfei explores the English version of the article published in Malaysia's The Star newspaper.
We're at a printing house near Kuala Lumpur, and here they're preparing for the newspaper for Tuesday, the day when Chinese President Xi Jinping is set to begin his state visit to Malaysia. On the first page, the signed article by the Chinese president.
In the article, President Xi wrote that China and Malaysia are friendly neighbors across the sea, and the two countries must work together to give fresh momentum to their friendship. He says both sides should provide mutual support, expand results-oriented cooperation, and fuel the engines of people-to-people exchanges. He also highlighted Malaysia's role as the ASEAN chair for 2025, saying China is committed to working with ASEAN to combat the undercurrents of geopolitical and camp-based confrontation.
President Xi's articles and statement is definitely very precious to us. He has emphasized a lot in terms of mutual trust and shared prosperity for future growth, and that is something that we Malaysians is deeply agree and believe in it.
In an exclusive interview, Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim praised the Chinese President Xi Jinping's distinctive approach to economic development. He noted that Xi Jinping places a strong emphasis on cultural exchange, mutual learning among civilizations, and the pursuit of shared prosperity. Anwar added that this vision closely aligns with Malaysia's Madani framework, which promotes values-based governance, humanitarianism, and a global outlook.
Dalam pertemuan saya dengan Presiden Xi,
during my meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping, I mentioned and even asked why his thoughts are so different and unique. It is because President Xi focuses on cultural exchange, civilization, mutual learning, and shared prosperity. This kind of demeanor is not commonly seen in political figures of this era. This aligns with the vision of Malaysia Madani, which also emphasizes values, humanitarianism, and a global perspective. It presents a spirit dedicated to building civilization. President Xi's response was very interesting. He said, "Indeed, we need to develop the economy, but human development cannot be separated from history, culture, and civilization." We often discuss topics such as the economy, technology, digitalization, and artificial intelligence. Of course, these are extremely important. But we also need to have a humanistic spirit. For example, in Malaysia, we are also actively promoting the dialogue between Islam and Confucianism. This has received positive recognition from President Xi Jinping. When he talked about the Malaysia Madani concept, he specifically mentioned the common values of Islamic and Confucian civilizations. This perception impressed me deeply. Only great leaders and thinkers can have such foresight and not just see the simple material needs.
Meanwhile, policymakers, scholars, and experts from the Malaysian business community have stressed the importance of deepening ties with China ahead of President Xi Jinping's state visit there.
I was in China 2 years ago. I was very impressed by many of the renewable energy projects, the robotics. I think your country is really advancing very much. And because of our Asian values, I think it will be easier for us to understand each other business-wise.
especially at a time when things are at a critical moment. It's very important for our countries to be able to work together, not just bilaterally, but also multilaterally with any other nation that hopes to continue upholding the institutions of trust.
Malaysia as an ASEAN chair this year, I think it brings a lot of deep-rooted meaning and implication. That also shows that his support to the Malaysian and ASEAN, what we call collaboration. And certainly this visit means a lot to us, and not only to Malaysia, but the entire Asia.
You're a powerful, rich nation, so the region can actually benefit a great deal. So we would actually hope that further cooperation would actually occur and that we could actually learn more from the Chinese people.
And apparently our reporter Zhao Yunfei had a busy schedule there, talking to different groups of people. And he also spoke to the performers welcoming President Xi at the airport in Kuala Lumpur.
Tell us more about the dancing. What's this name and what's
So we perform as a Malaysian of culture.
As you can see, we are Malaysia. We are diversity of culture. We are got a lot of races. As you can see, myself from Malay. There's Chinese. There are Indians. There's also from Borneo, Sabah, and Sarawak.
Yeah.
So what we're doing today, we will perform the combination of all the races in Malaysia.
So it's a blend of dancing.
Yes, the blend of dances to dance together.
Does it have any special meaning? Why you do the blend? Why you are mixing so many cultures to welcome the Chinese president?
This is show that the differences of races, the together, the unity. We show the harmonies with all kind of races. We living together.
Yeah, in this culture of Malaysia.
Okay.
Maybe do you mind if you pose a gesture of dancing or give us a little dance or a little bit? Do two of you? Wow, that's impressive. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Our colleague Lee Cho-yuan have spoken to Farhana Sheikh, an anchor from Malaysia's Astro Awani, on the evolving China-Malaysia relations.
Now, as Malaysia and China celebrate 50 years of diplomatic relations, how would you assess the evolution of this relationship?
That's a great question. I think it's really been quite a journey. Back in 1974, Malaysia really took a bold step to becoming the first ASEAN country to establish diplomatic ties with China. And since then, I think the relationship has really grown in so many ways. What started as a formal diplomacy has evolved into really strong partnerships that touches on everything from trade, infrastructure, education, culture, and even space exploration at this point. So China is now Malaysia's biggest trading partner, and the collaboration just keeps on deepening. We have a state visit by President Xi Jinping this April as well. So at the heart of it, I feel that there has been a lot of mutual respect and also shared interest in building a stable multipolar region.
And as an Asian media leader, how can Astro Awani contribute to a more balanced narrative about China and China-Malaysia relations?
I think for both of us, we play a very important role in shaping how people see the world. At Astro Awani, we're focused on going beyond the surface. So to give people real context, especially when I talk about what's happening in China, for example, what it means for Malaysia and how it fits into the bigger regional picture. So it's not just about politics or trade. It's also about showing human stories, cultural connections, and everyday shift. You know, through this partnership, exchange programs, and also reporting in multi-languages that we do here, we aim to bring in more voices, help our audience understand that it's not just about what's happening, but also why it matters.
So we're hearing Ne Jia 2 is making waves in Malaysia. How are cultural exchanges from movie to tourism strengthening people-to-people bonds?
I mean, Neza itself, the movie is such amazing animation and a stunning storyline. have to commend, Chinese production for coming up with this movie. And it's amazing just how much impact pop culture can have. The success of Neza 2 here in Malaysia really shows how Chinese stories are really connecting with Malaysian audiences, especially, younger ones. Things like movies, apps, even short form videos on TikTok, and even if you go even further, traditional Chinese medicine, for example, they all build this kind of curiosity that sparks interest about Chinese culture for Malaysians. And I think this curiosity often leads to people wanting to explore more. So we're seeing nowadays Malaysians traveling to China, not just to see the Great Wall of China, for example. We're looking at more less popular tourist spot here in Malaysia making big waves. People are going to Xi'an to see, to explore the ancient history. They're going to Chengdu for the local food. So it's really a great example, I feel, of a soft power in action.
Prahanna, thank you so much for taking the time talking to us. We really appreciate it.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much.
And now let's hear some more views from our studio guest here, Professor Liu Baocheng, Dean of the Center for International Business Ethics at the University of International Business and Economics, and of course, Mr. Zhou Mi with us. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, we understand that the relation between China and Malaysia has remained robust and, very active over the past century. Actually, if you go out to the streets in Malaysia, you would notice many places with cultural similarities, and of course the two countries in recent years, decades, are closely linked by trade and investment. I want to get your thoughts on this, Mr. Zhou Mi. How would you assess the current state of relationship between the two countries, and where do you see this develop?
Well, if you are looking at trade, I think that, for example, that if you are looking at trade data of the year 2024, the trade between...
we have to stop you there. This just came in. Chinese President Xi Jinping has arrived in Malaysia for a state visit, and we'll keep you updated on that. And President Xi Jinping is scheduled to hold talks with Malaysia's king and country's prime minister. Yes, Mr. Zhou, you were saying.
Yeah, so look at the data. We know that in the year of 2024, the bilateral trade between our two countries of China and Malaysia has exceeded the speed of the China total trade. So it's a very important symbol that we are looking at the trade because it represents the comparatively advantages of both countries. And if you are looking at the investment, I think that China's companies are trying to invest more in Malaysia because they are seeing many of the opportunities. The economic structures of China and Malaysia are very complementary. So not like the other ASEAN countries, as for example, China and Malaysia's industries are based on the manufacturing. So we are seeing more of these complementary advantages. So if you are looking at the contracting, like the engineering, many of the Chinese companies doing businesses there, and they help them to build the highways and also improve the bridges and also a lot of infrastructure about the telecommunications. So I would say that the bilateral relations between these two countries are very important, and they are increasing in the recent years very largely.
And looking at this positive and sustainable momentum between China and Malaysia, Professor, I think it's fair to say that high-level political trust is the foundation for this kind of positive momentum. And talking about this year, it adds extra significance, right? Because Malaysia holds the chair of ASEAN for this year. And adding that to the evolving bilateral ties we just mentioned, what are your major expectations for President Xi Jinping's visit this time?
Well, I think that trust is multi-hold between the two top leaders and between me and my Malaysian students. So they are there to form an ecosystem to sustain such sort of collaboration and also a rule-based structure. And now, given that over the past 16 years, China has been the largest trade partner with Malaysia. So definitely we have been talking about, first, on the conceptual level, how trust as a value can be further promoted in order to be translated into real-world cooperation.
Indeed, and as we're talking about this, Professor, we're watching footage from Kuala Lumpur International Airport, where Chinese President Xi Jinping has just arrived in Malaysia for a state visit. Yes, you were talking about enhancing political trust. Yeah.
The collaboration is not only economic, But as the previous interviewees mentioned, it is really the respect of both of each other's culture, and also in boosting more towards the future prospect that people can really expect and harvest from. So both sides have a high resolve to go for the high quality industrial capacity, and also to build more of the infrastructure, and more experience can be shared. And China's sincerity over the years through the Belt and Road program has been further stricken roots in Malaysia, and with the trust, and also the not only in sincerity but in the capacity, they really benefit a great deal. And now China is further opening its market. You see more of the durians, more of the other type of fruits are penetrating into individual Chinese households. And then there has been further exploration of the business communities from setting up industrial parks on each side, and also to be able to take advantage of the digital transformation, where China definitely is having an advantage, so that we can share. And I think also we say that a common challenge can unite people. Now we are facing a number of geopolitical common challenges, and it is very important for China and ASEAN countries, when Malaysia is also chairing the ASEAN the group. It is a crucial time for us to stand together, to have information sharing, and also to have a joint attitude and joint action towards some of the common challenges we face.
And of course, the significance of this relationship goes beyond their borders. As we mentioned just now, this is President Xi Jinping's first trip to Malaysia in 12 years. And back in 2013, it was during that trip, and as well as his visit to Indonesia, that he put forward this idea of the Maritime Silk Road, which is an important component of the Belt and Road Initiative. And Malaysia, as we know, is one of the first participants to join the Belt and Road Initiative. I want to get your thoughts, Professor, on this. How do you look at this relationship evolving, its regional impact, as well as, going to the bigger international community?
Several years ago, I visited Malaysia, and I also visited the Zhenghe Temple. And I asked many of the local people that they set up Zhenghe as the local god simply by their own willingness. So China never imposes anything on them, and also the Chinese leaders also advise them to also to identify actually their local god, so that they can also pay tribute to, which means that first, the respect in each other's culture and civilization is there to sow the seed for further trust. And the Malaysia is both a springboard and also destination of the Belt and Road program. And they also see the opportunity that by working with China, they can really reap the real benefit of connectivity, of infrastructure building, and more importantly, to boost the general level of their industrial capacity, which they can stay more on a competitive front. And over the several years, actually, Malaysia has been suffering from a sort of GDP impasse. And now with China, with the strengthened China-Thai, definitely they're going to place high hope on the fruition of such a collaboration. And now we are also facing a very important juncture of green transformation, digital transformation. Nobody is going to be willing to lag behind, and only by further collaboration through complementarity.
Indeed, and as we're talking about this, we're watching footage from Kuala Lumpur. Chinese President Xi Jinping has arrived in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysian capital, for a state visit. As we just reported, President Xi Jinping is expected to hold talks with Malaysia's King Sultan Ibrahim, Sultan Iskandar, and Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim during his first visit to Malaysia in 12 years.
And some little bit more background information for you. Malaysia, which chairs the ASEAN this year, was one of the first ASEAN members to establish diplomatic ties with China. And the two countries celebrated 50 years of diplomatic relations last year.
And China has been Malaysia's largest trading partner for 16 consecutive years, while Malaysia ranks as China's second largest trading partner and top source of imports within ASEAN. Malaysia was also among the earliest supporters of the Belt and Road Initiative.
And if you've just joined us, this is our special coverage of Chinese President Xi Jinping's journey to Southeast Asia. This is the second leg of his trip. The trip has already taken him to Vietnam, and he will spend 2 or 3 days in Malaysia, followed by a visit to Cambodia.
And as we just mentioned, two countries have been witnessing this very positive momentum in high-level political trust and the jointly building of the Belt and Road Initiative. And actually, in 2023, Mr. Zhou, China and Malaysia have agreed to jointly build a China-Malaysia community with a shared future. Now, putting all those specific cooperation projects and momentum into this big picture, how much is this a boost to bilateral ties?
We know that China and Malaysia will have a lot of complementary areas and fields. As for example, the electronics in Malaysia is very important, so they developed very advanced memory stick industries, and we also are importing a lot of things from them, while we export some chips to them. So it's a kind of vertical cooperation in that supply chains. Well, as you may know that there are another kind of innovative ways for both sides to do the businesses. We have the two-country twin industrial parks. Like, you know, I was working in Guangxi, and there is a city named Qinzhou, and they have built our industrial park there, while Malaysia, they have their own. They have these collections between these two industrial parks, which is important for them to do more collaborations.
Is this kind of innovation in bilateral trade and industrial cooperation, this twin industrial park project?
Yeah, it is a very important one because we haven't done that before. So the importance is that both industrial parks are trying to make their own advantages locally while have the better connections with the other. We know that industrial parks are really important for the country who want to industrial themselves. So industrialization is one of the priorities for so many countries. If we are going to provide more jobs, I don't think that is only mentioned about some of the more developed economies. It is even more important to connecting with a more sustainable market. And among that, and China is one of the major choices for them.
Now, we're now watching a live picture from Kuala Lumpur. This is at the airport where Chinese President Xi Jinping's aircraft has already touched down there, and he will begin a state visit to the Southeast Asian country. This is his first visit there in 12 years.
And as we just heard from our reporter Zhao Yunfei standing by at the Kuala Lumpur airport, where Chinese President Xi Jinping has just arrived, a very warm and grand welcoming ceremony is expected with a strong feature of Malaysia's unique culture.
Yeah. Malaysian culture, as we mentioned, there's a strong cultural bond between peoples of these two nations. Professor Liu, you just mentioned the example of their traditional ties. Would there be more as you interact with their students? How do they view China these days, and what do they hope that the development of these two countries would bring to advance this relationship even further?
Well, we say that people are the ants, and they are also the most active ingredient of any type of interchange. And now we also place high hope on the younger generations. So therefore, I've been dedicated to teaching those kids, and more and more I see the higher percentage of Malaysian students are joining my international class. And I do feel that they have such a strong urge. One is to engage into multiple activities in China, like the entrepreneur clubs and They want to learn more even beyond our curriculum of how China runs the industrial park and how the Chinese open door policy is going to further flare in the new digital world, et cetera, et cetera. So many of the cultural activities are being conducted actually only by intensifying people's interaction in a positive note, so that people can really enhance the trust and exchange each other's needs and wants, also to share the capacity. And then we can see that Malaysia is really highly developed with their own industrial blueprint, and also more of the building a better communication with the rest of the world. And China is of course given the highest priority, as China is there to have high complementary technologies, and also we are open more with well, right now I think we have 6 industrial parks on a twin basis, and this leverage does give the younger generation a great hope for being a great entrepreneur and future business leaders, and also being diplomats to weave further the collaboration of each other.
Indeed, and carrying that upbeat tone, we're watching live footage from Kuala Lumpur. Chinese President Xi Jinping has arrived in the Malaysian capital for a state visit. And talking about China-Malaysia cooperation, Mr. Zhou, I'm quite curious about this vertical cooperation model you just mentioned, and also this twin industrial park project both of you gentlemen have mentioned. Any more innovation in the recent cooperation between the two sides that can really impress like that?
Yeah, we know that both countries have different conditions about the management methods. So for China, I think that the local government are highly involved in that operation of the industrial park. But for Malaysia side, most of these businesses are to do with the private sectors. So I think that is possible for both sides to consider about how can they improve or enhance the connections of them. As for one of the priorities about the infrastructure connections, because we are far away, so how can we have a better route for the sea transportation and also the air transportation is one of the priorities. Well, the second is important for the market. So we know that Guangxi has its own market characteristic, while Malaysia, they have their own. So they have to address the different demands of the both sides and trying to give them better support. Well, I think the third one will be the exchange of the laborers and the skilled workers. And that is really matter because we want to have some transfer of the knowledge, and it is important for them to improve the both sides' abilities.
And here, gentlemen, I want to mention this ECRL, this railway network that's going to boost connectivity between these regions. It was launched back in 2017, and once completed, it will really bridge Malaysia's less developed East Coast with its economic powerhouse in the West. Mr. Zhou, how do you envision a more interconnected region? Because this network not only will, boost connection from within Malaysia, but also will link it up with other neighboring countries like China and Laos and China-Thailand rail networks.
Well, it is true that if you're looking at the example of Indonesia, we can see that the connection of a very comfortable and efficient way is very important. So even for Malaysia, I think that they really want to have a better connections by the transportation and logistics. But I think that is also a good example of that rail you mentioned, because it's started from a very huge one and it then transferred into a little bit different version. I think that is understandable because we see that the Belt and Road Corporation are not only about the huge projects, also trying to give more emphasis on some small but beautiful projects. And I think that is also helpful for us to understand that the demand has changed. We have to address the challenges and also trying to grasp the opportunities by both sides in the consideration and also the negotiation or exchanging of the viewpoints.
Now let's turn to the bigger picture. Professor, what about the whole trade structure between China and Malaysia and its potential? I think it's fair to say that we're no strangers to Malaysian products in our daily lives, durian for sure. And personally, I would sometimes, enjoy a pack of Malaysian chips even. So, but looking at a big trade picture, do you see a structural change that's been improving or evolving due to the development of both economies and some external factors you just mentioned?
Well, I should say it's a complex picture because the industries are highly intertwined. We are both competitors for some of the third country market like the United States and Europe, and particularly in the semiconductor area. And the Malaysia has also very solid foundation, both at the human level and industrial level, in dealing the, as you said, the memory stakes and the computer panels, etc. And China is also having a great advantage in producing on a large scale of such. But now more of the competition is turning more into a cooperation because in terms of integration of those industrial parts and also those supporting software programs, and so particularly with the twin parks that are going on, they are able to leverage more of the competition edge into more of a collaboration frontier. And so this is really a very welcome and also a great showcase example as how we can really collaborate on the Belt and Road, even if we are fighting for the same market share. And now, under the pressure of local transformation in the technology and also in the institutional structure, China also has a great experience to share with the Malaysia, and on the other hand, the type of operation of those industrial parks, as my friend has mentioned, by private sector is something that China can really take into consideration, because right now we have like 80,000 the industrial parks, and we also need to actually to decentralize the operation and push more from a government-run program into a integrated and market-driven and the private sector-driven one. So this is something that we can really share with each other. And plus those, the connectivity program is also very encouraging because, Malaysia has a large landmass. It's not like Indonesia who have so many islands, and so therefore they do need the speedy rails. And China's development of the speedy trains and both for the transportation of cargo and people are really admirable. So therefore, many other countries are there to seek Chinese experience and also to work with China to deliver such engineering work and deliver parts, etc. So I think Malaysia is smart enough that we do this big project. It helps each other and give people further inspiration and also to invigorate more of the business communities, not only for transportation, but also to give better chance for tourism, hospitality industry, and also the industries so that they enjoy better logistics.
As we discussed the significance of President Xi Jinping's visit to Malaysia, we're watching some live feed from the Kuala Lumpur airport, and we could see that the welcoming crowds is ready, motorcade is on standby. It was a little bit rainy, but then the sky just cleared up at the moment of the touchdown. And as I mentioned, this is the second leg of President Xi Jinping's trip to Southeast Asia. He has already visited Vietnam and will continue on this trip from Malaysia to Cambodia.
Indeed, and talking about the sharing opportunities, Mr. Zhou, in his assigned article ahead of his arrival to Malaysia, President Xi Jinping said China welcomes Malaysia becoming a BRICS partner. So talking about the momentum for this grouping of emerging economies, what kind of momentum could be this partnership between BRICS members and Malaysia as a partner?
We know that BRICS is a very important group in the world. We are seeing that development. I mean, not only about the people that we have. Actually, we have so many people here in the BRICS groups. Well, it is also true that we can see a lot of economic scale. So about the cooperation, if we have enough size of the economy, I think it's helpful for us to understand that there are so many possibilities for the cooperation. Well, Malaysia is one of the main countries in ASEAN areas, and it is one of the most important and also industrialized countries in this area. So I hope that the collaboration between BRICS countries and Malaysia will be better compared with some other countries. All the countries are different. I have to say that we have to address the challenges and also to realize our blueprint or the dreams. So for Malaysia, I believe that we have many possibilities.
Right. Now let's cross live to Kuala Lumpur Airport. Chinese President Xi Jinping has arrived in the Malaysian capital. You're watching live footage. Chinese President Xi Jinping has just stepped out of the plane and waving to the crowd at the scene. And we can see it's a very warm and grand occasion. Honor guards are standing by with people from all walks of life in Malaysia welcoming the Chinese president's arrival and a highly anticipated state visit.
Exactly. Well, this is certainly a high-profile welcoming ceremony, and the ceremony itself will be followed by a series of performances with a very strong local cultural identity.
You're watching live footage from Kuala Lumpur Airport. Chinese President Xi Jinping has arrived in the Malaysian capital for a state visit and is warmly welcomed by country's leaders at the airport, along with people from all walks of life.
He last visited Malaysia in 2013, and that trip also took him to Indonesia. It was during that trip, as we mentioned, that he put forward this idea of the 21st century maritime Silk Road, which is an important component of the Belt and Road Initiative. And Malaysia, as we know, was among the first countries to participate in the BRI.
And it's fair to say that the two countries' political trust is at a very high level right now. In 2023, the two countries have agreed to jointly build a community of a China-Malaysia community of a shared future. And talking about trade, the momentum is also very strong, and we've got latest figures. Last year, in 2024, bilateral trade reached a record high of $212 billion, marking an 11.4% annual increase.
That's right, and also people-to-people exchanges in terms of the cultural connections. We know that there was this mutual visa exemption policy in late 2013, and since then Malaysia has welcomed nearly 3.8 million Chinese tourists last year, with, of course, weekly flights between the two countries exceeding 500.
And indeed, it's very evident that the two countries' leaders have been emphasizing the importance of mutual learning among civilizations. For example, Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has been advocating this mutual learning between Confucianism and Islam, right? As we just also heard from a reporter's interview in Malaysia. And also turning to investment, and Malaysia is one of the key destinations for Chinese investment in recent years. Investment in technology has grown significantly. Also in manufacturing, Chinese automakers like Geely and Chery have built plants in Malaysia. And as we've been hearing, some of the brands are quite popular in the auto market in Malaysia, right?
That's true. For example, Geely and Chery. And those are some of the popular brands. They built manufacturing plants in Malaysia. Right. Now, gentlemen, I want to get your thoughts on this, because we talked about people-to-people exchanges just now, and then on the national level, a lot is being done to further align the development strategies between China and Malaysia. Mr. Zhou, what are some of the areas that's drawing your attention most?
Well, if you're looking at manufacturing, we have talked that too much. Well, I have to say that there is another very important region of the cooperation by the two countries. That is the palm oil. We know that Malaysia is one of the main origin places for the palm oil. Actually, I went to Malaysia several years ago to attend a very important international conference. It's to discuss about the palm oil industries. How can we safeguard the security of the industry and trying to make it environmental friendly. So I think that China is a very responsible country. We have a lot of responsibilities in using the resources, and that is sustainable for the palm oil for us to use. Like what you are trying to use that in the McDonald's, when you have the fries, it is used the palm oil because it is in the solid status in the normal temperature, but it will melt in the mouth. So the chocolate is depending on the using of the palm oils.
Yeah, it's also being used on a lot of snacks like cookies, biscuits, and other fried snacks, for example.
Yeah, so they have a lot of resources, and they are really having some discipline to have a better position in the collaboration among those countries, including Indonesia and other ASEAN countries. So I think that cooperation are not only based on the trade, they are based on their complementary advantages. For both countries, we have so many common understanding about the future, and another very important one is about the digital economy. We know that Malaysia have the Digital Malaysia program. It is a national program to welcome the tourists from other countries while establish a better connection in the digital areas. So I think that it's very helpful for them to learn the experiences from us about the digital platform, about the e-wallets, about different kind of applications. And I think that is also helpful for the NEVs, the new electronic vehicles, because it has a lot of things to do with the data transformation.
Yeah, talking about palm oil actually reminds me that 20 years ago I was doing the palm oil business representing a British firm called London Export Company to work with Koch brothers to import a lot of the palm oil into China. And it's interesting to note, actually, although we continue to buy timber, rubber, and even tin and palm oil, of course, as raw materials into China, but the share of those raw materials in terms of value computation has been declining. And so that signifies that the industrial structure of collaboration has been upgraded to such a level. Now we are talking about a higher share in the trade value in the semiconductor area, in the cultural products, and also in those the new areas of technology transfer, and even the lab work, collaboration, etc. So it shows that both sides has really benefited a great deal in upgrading their own industrial structure. And the fact that, look at the Koch brothers, they built the Foxconn, and so they also transformed to reap on such sort of the opportunities for industrial elevation. So there is good reason to say that we are going to move further into more of the digital world for collaboration, particularly in the cultural areas, like the animation movies, and also the more of the joint research in further amplifying the success of e-commerce together with the artificial intelligence and even shared information in the cloud computing work.
So, gentlemen, how about we expand that momentum you just mentioned to a regional perspective? Of course, state visits are usually about bilateral ties, but looking at three countries President Xi Jinping visits this time are all members of ASEAN, right? And in his signed article published in Malaysian media, President Xi Jinping is quite positive on trade outlook between China and ASEAN. For example, he raised this figure in his article. In 2024, the trade volume between China and ASEAN has surpassed $980 billion. Tell us more about the potential of this trade momentum between China and ASEAN, Mr. Zhou.
Well, it is true that both sides are really having the advantages. I don't think that trade will naturally happen. So both governments are trying to do more to improve that. As for the ASEAN, we know that it is have a very important targets to trying to look like the EU. In even several decades ago. So they made that goal to become the EU-like. But the
economic integration, right?
Yes,
yeah.
but the integration is never an easy task. So for them, it is really important for them to have some forces to help them to have a better integration. So China have signed the first free trade agreement with ASEAN, and that is based on the several different phases. The first one is the early harvest. That is providing more opportunities for ASEAN's exports of the agricultural products. And then we move on to the agreement about the trade in goods, and then move to the trade in services and investment. So I think that both sides are really getting better position in the mechanism guarantee, and that is helpful for the companies to do the business. As for the global supply chains are reconstructing, we are seeing that more companies are going to this region because they have a lot of confidence about the environment. Well, the second is also important if we are trying to look at the trade. I think that the ability or the capability of the stakeholders are in the increasing and improving position. So we are having more training in ASEAN countries and help those stakeholders to have a better ability in the international trade. And that is really important. And the third one I would say is about the e-commerce. So the e-commerce in ASEAN countries are developing very quickly. It's not only based by the guidance or the some of the order of the government. It's never be that because the Alibaba and also other e-platforms are trying to meet the demands of the local people and also to provide them better opportunities. So the e-commerce has a very important function to connecting very remote villages and even farmers. They can be involved in the international trade. So I would say that kind of international trade also helpful for the infrastructure improvement, which on the other side to improve the trade abilities and reduce the cost in this region.
Right, gentlemen, let's get more updates now.
Sure. Well, the first overseas branch of a Chinese university in Malaysia was established nearly a decade ago. Xiamen University, Malaysia, has become an important bridge connecting international students with China. Our reporter Tin Tong explores the campus for us.
Xiamen University. But we are not in China. Welcome to Xiamen University, Malaysia.
A 40-minute drive from the center of Kuala Lumpur, the institution was opened in 2016 and today has over 9,100 students. There I met 3 students from China, Malaysia, and Russia.
Marine environmental chemistry, which is my major, is really good.
I can get 2 country certificate. Easy to me to find a job at China.
It's just a great opportunity to go abroad and learn about new cultures.
The university hosts students from 48 countries and regions, but the canteen is full of Chinese specialties.
We have Lanzhou noodles, hot spicy hot pot, dumplings.
Not surprised. Nobody can reject Chinese cuisine.
Well, I think it's really difficult to make a decision for lunch.
Not only food, if you are interested in China, there are special courses you can study.
Today is Saturday, so there are no many classes today, but there is one MBA course we are going to join.
The class is Human Resources Management, and they're discussing the so-called unhappy life introduced by some Chinese companies. Most students here collaborate with Chinese firms or are interested in doing businesses with China.
Most of you are not from China, you are from Malaysia or probably other countries. Why this unhappy life at a Chinese company matter to you?
We also having Chinese company expanding their business in Malaysia. We might need to know more about the Chinese culture so that we can incorporate a balanced policy for both the employees in Malaysia as well as the expatriates from China.
Principal Wang Ruifang has witnessed the school's development.
Education is indeed a very good approach to develop the friendship between countries among students. So we treat our work as spring rain, moistening the things silently.
For China's century-old Xiamen University, the Malaysian campus has made the first Chinese university to open an overseas branch.
The founder of Xiamen University had probably never imagined one day the school has set up a campus overseas. And over the past decade, the school has become an important gateway to let more people know about China.
As Principal Wang says, education is like spring rain moistening the things silently. The educational exchange between the two nations is not only about education, but building a bridge towards increased cooperation and integration in the future. Chen Tong, CGTN, Sepang, Malaysia.
Well, it's not the season for Malaysian durian yet, but in a durian market in Kuala Lumpur, creamy and fresh durian has been attracting Chinese tourists. Chen Tong takes a look again.
Question: how many types of durian does Malaysia produce? Answer: over 200 varieties. It's not a peak season for durian, but you can already find some famous varieties in this market.
This is XO.
XO.
Yeah, Sultan.
Sultan.
Jantong.
Jantong.
O3.
O3.
Okay, this one is Butter King. This is the only one.
Only
Musang
one.
King.
Musang King. So this must be the best-selling one.
Yeah.
Musang King, the dream for durian lovers.
I know it's not a season, but coming to Malaysia, you must have some durian. And this is the best-selling one. Black Gold Musang King. Creamy and fresh.
And in this market, I found many Chinese durian lovers like me.
好吃，太好吃了。
香糯甜，
比往年的要好吃一点。
各种各样的很新奇的品种，我们很好奇。
The main season for Malaysian durian begins in June, but there have already been many Chinese tourists coming to the market. Vendors say over half of their consumers are from China.
大概一天能卖多少？
一天啊，现在1吨这样咯。
1吨就每天。
对。
但是现在不是旺季。
对呀。
那旺季的时候呢？
哇，多了那个几吨啊。
Durian businesses are booming, especially after Malaysia introduced visa-free policies for Chinese tourists at the end of 2023.
Now because of the visa, maybe Chinese tourism they will more they will come here.
Malaysia durian is satisfying to Chinese tourists' appetites, but China is also the largest export market for Malaysian durian.
Well, don't be jealous. Consumers in China now have the opportunities to taste fresher Malaysian durian.
In the past, only frozen Malaysian durian could go to China, but since June last year, fresh ones can go. Over the following 5 months, the value of the country's fresh durian exports totaled over $5.7 million US. And this durian is just one example of the economic cooperation between the two nations. Chen Tong, CGTN, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
And that's it for this special coverage on CGTN on the arrival of Chinese President Xi Jinping in Malaysia for a state visit.
And over the last hour, we've witnessed the start of this state visit that aims to deepen cooperation across diplomacy, trade, as well as regional strategy.
And we'd like to extend our gratitude to our studio guests, Professor Liu Baozheng and Mr. Zhou Mi, for their insights throughout the coverage.
Thank you so much. And of course, CGTN will continue to follow developments closely as the visit unfolds. For now, goodbye. I'm Wang Momang.
I'm Pan Zheng. Stay tuned.